Should you join the military? How would joining the military allow you to get wealthy by buying homes? We're going to be talking about somebody that actually did just that. The one and only Sarah Garrett. Garrett, is that right?
It's Garrett, sir.
Garrett. Garrett. Sorry about
Yep,
that.
that's us.
Well, well, Sarah, why don't you just tell us a story about what you and your husband have done, and we'll break that down.
Well, our my journey actually initially started by myself. Say I was actually it was during the GFC, which at the time I didn't know was the GFC or the lead up to it. In 2007, I had actually my father passed away unexpectedly. I was stationed in Germany at the time. I was only 24. I was a single mom with two kids serving my country. That was my goal since I was five, was to serve. And so my father had the home tied up in bankruptcy when he passed away. Looking back and having gotten educated on economics, et cetera, I since learned all these years later that that was the lead up to the GFC and he was over leveraged on the house. Um, and so I flew back from Germany. I was notified he had passed. I flew back from Germany and my mom's got herself and still two kids at home. And like, we're going to lose the house because it needed to go immediately into foreclosure because the bankruptcy had been holding the foreclosure from taking place.
Got
And
it.
I said, I'm going to figure this out. I'll figure it out. And I'm going to figure out how to get the house, saved so you can stay in the house.
Okay.
Well, I go to back then it was called Borders Books. I think it was still Borders then. So I go to Borders. I'm a reader, and I picked every single book I could off the shelf about foreclosures, real estate, whatever. One of them happened to be Robert Kiyosaki's book as well. And so I'm like, I'm gonna figure this out. Well,
Okay.
I did because I served. I had very secure income. A lot of out-of-pocket costs I didn't have because the military covers them for you. I didn't
Sure.
have to fund my retirement. I didn't have to pay for health insurance premiums. So the bank was like, "Hey, we'll allow you to take over." They didn't actually make me assume the loan, but because I was in the service and I was my father's child, I was able to essentially get the house out of foreclosure. And then
Okay.
what they did was they just tacked on the payments that he hadn't been paying for the last probably maybe year. They tacked them on to the back end for me and allowed me to resume the monthly payment, which I was able to do because I was, like I said, I had a stable income and
Mhm.
everything was good to go. So um, I actually ended up at some point in time, about 2 years later, actually letting that house go because the house was really bad underwater.
Mhm.
So that was what I would say was my first alligator property. So my mom was there. I'd actually had the house like appraised, and I'd had an inspection done on it. It needed probably 100 grand worth of repairs.
Ooh.
Yeah, it did. And funny thing is that even after all this stuff through COVID, that home, what my father had it mortgaged for at the time was about $300,000. Even through COVID, that value still never recovered to $300,000, still to this
Wow.
day. Yeah, so
What
I'm
what
thankful
what
that
state is that in? Sorry, what
that
state?
was actually in Michigan. It was in Michigan. Yep, my
Okay.
parents were in Michigan. Yep.
All right.
So I that actually I watched it all through COVID actually, and I'm like, because I have a ping on it, so that if
Yeah.
it ever goes for sale, I intend to buy it again, right? But I'm
Yeah.
like, wow, that's crazy. I'm so happy that I walked away from the house,
Right.
and
Okay.
it was very emotional. But I will say that was the best lesson I ever learned. That was my first,
Right.
both feet jumped into the water to learn about real estate, and I never imagined it would get me to where my husband and I are today because it was very emotional to walk
Yeah.
away from the house. So fast forward 2 years later in 2009, my husband and I, we then moved to Missouri. And
Okay.
I don't know if a lot of people are aware of it or not, but you're able to buy homes with the VA backing. So whoever your lender is, they'll get your VA certificate for your service and they'll back the loan. So we don't have to put any money down.
Right. 0%.
Well,
Yep. Mhm.
yep. So my husband and I, and then also with the VA backed, you normally get anywhere from a quarter to a half a percentage point less on your interest rate as
Hmm.
well than what
Oh,
regular
I didn't know
civilians
that.
get.
I
Yeah,
did not know that.
sometimes it can be even almost 1%. Another benefit of VA backed loans as well is that anytime the market changes, say if the rates go down, you can do what's called a VA streamline and they'll
Oh,
reduce your interest rate, no re underwriting, nothing. They'll just automatically reduce it. You have to queue the system, but they'll reduce it for you. So in
nice.
'09, we bought that house kind of going toward the top of the market, but one great thing about my husband and I that I'm still thankful for to this day is that we both have been 100% sold on living very well below our means. We're
Mm.
window shoppers. We love to travel and like to eat out, but we're not a stuffed type of people. We're very happy just with a very expensive coffee pot with fresh ground coffee every morning. I take it to every hotel we stay at. They're like, we have coffee. I'm like, no, I've got my machine upstairs.
I'm good.
Yeah. I'm like, it needs a spot on the plane, like everything. We take this coffee pot.
I like it.
And so, yeah, other than that, we're very simple. We've been able to travel the world, whatever. So anyhow, in '09, so we bought a house well below our means. In fact, the bank even was kind of like, you guys do know you can borrow way more money. Like, and they were
Mm.
trying to kind of get me to borrow several hundred thousand more. And I'm like, nope, we're good with the
No, we're good.
160. We're
We're good.
right. And she's like, you guys are approved, for over 500,000 at that time. And I'm like, nope, we're good just with the 160.
I like it.
So yeah, so we bought that house. And so what we've actually done since, well, my first in '07 and then '09 is every 2 to 3 years we buy another single family home. We own or occupy them first, so that way we get the reduced interest rate.
Sure.
And then we don't have to worry about, even if later on if we decided to sell, we've only ever sold one.
Yeah.
Then we also have, there's another clause that we have being military, to where we don't have to pay certain gains on taxes because we basically had to move because of military service. So we've got almost like a 10-year period that we can sell in if we
Mm.
want to and not have to pay additional gains and things like that. So, so I made a couple notes in case I lost my track.
Yeah.
But yeah, so sometimes I get all over the place.
No, this is fun. So again, so you buy your first VA with your husband, live below
Yep.
your means, in '09. So it's 2024 now. How many times have you guys kind of rinsed and repeated this?
So we've actually done it 6 times. Five, yeah,
Wow.
6 times, yes. And so we've
Okay.
sold one. We've sold one there. Yep. And so, in fact, it's funny because Dion that you have on your channel, the one that we've ever sold is in actually in the Tacoma area because
Oh
single
wow.
family homes, they do not cash flow.
Right.
and
No.
so and so I was running the numbers. I'm like, and I was still learning at the time, and I'm like, something's not right here, babe. Like this is weird what I'm going to get for the rent.
Yeah.
If this is the mortgage, whatever. And so we decided to actually sell for a gain there.
Right.
And then we actually took it and reinvested that as well. Just not with a 1031, but we just reinvested just because where else are you going to hide your money, or where are you going to keep it?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah, so that's just what we've done. And then we're actually at a place now. My 13-year-old son, because we've got 5 kids actually, but my 13-year-old, we've got 2 grown and three still at home that are heading sort of on the way out. My 13-year-old, he calls me a cheapskate all the time, because I'm literally, my husband and I, we usually double down on payments and things like that
Ah,
instead of living and enjoying life, I guess, in the crazy way right now. We just
yeah.
keep on delaying gratification. And so we'll hit a place in about 4 years that everything will be paid off that we have, and we can now just pay cash
Wow.
for our rentals. Yeah, so we've been working my butt off. My son's like, why are you doing all this and you're just so cheap? And mom's, always going to Disney with, coupons and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, Matthew, you'll thank dad and I,
Yeah.
later,
Yeah.
down the road. And so, so I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
But I tell people all the time, between the security that the military has given us, and it's just, even as I look at like our civilian counterparts, because my husband's toiled here and there with getting out and go, because he's past the retirement time, if he wanted to get out. And I'm like, there's so many things that we don't have to pay for in the
Right.
military that our civilian friends do. And it's not until you start really analyzing and writing down the costs of everything, and you're like, wow, we've never had to pay for healthcare ever. We've had, major health issues occur, major surgeries or whatever, and we've, even for our children, we've never had to pay out of pocket for those things.
Hmm.
And so I tell people, sometimes they always say, well, I'll make the military a last resort. And I'm like, honestly, if you make it your first resort first, and
Yeah.
even once you serve, for the rest of your life, you're entitled to a VA backed loan.
Right.
We just have used it while in service. A lot of people won't use it until after they get out, and I don't understand why.
That is something I want to talk about because I've known a lot of folks that served. Both my parents served, a lot of my friend network served. And you're right, not a lot of people use the loan while they're serving. And I think it's a mental roadblock because they know their duty station could change once
Yes.
every
Yep.
2 or 3 years, right? So they're like, "Oh, we're not going to plant roots because we could be gone tomorrow.
Right.
And I would tell them, just like you and your husband proved, look at that as a good thing.
Right.
Use this
Right.
zero down loan, but you got to buy, like you said, you got to buy something
Yep.
smart that will cash flow when you leave. So
Yes.
it worked in Missouri. It didn't work in Tacoma. So if it's not going to cash flow, sell it. Absolutely the right move. Um, but you could play Monopoly with somebody else's money. I mean, it's
Right.
genius.
Exactly. Yep, yep. That's exactly what we've done. And then, a lot of our friends too, even military. I've got a neighbor now, they're also military and they're wanting to sell their house right now. I'm like, are you crazy? Like you've got a 3.5% loan and like, well, I can sell it for a $200,000 gain. I'm like, well, just like if you're that desperate, just pull the cash out and just pay, 8% or something on 100 grand and then,
Yeah.
go buy a car or whatever you're gonna do with it. That's crazy. But yeah, and so a lot of most of our military friends, when they do buy, they'll sell, whenever the market's, going up or whatever, they'll sell. And it's like you look back and it's like they have nothing to show for it. Whereas
No.
like for us, we've just doubled down and I'm like, hey babe, we're doing this. All the kids, I've got them all on board. They all go look at houses with me all the time. And
Nice.
why, and so I've even had them move. We moved twice in one like maybe a 13-month period. We stayed in one for 12 months. That was perfect, was going to cash flow almost $1,000 a month. And I'm like, hey,
Done.
pack it. Don't even unpack anything. We're going to be here for
Just leave
12
them in the
months, guys.
boxes.
Yep. And we did. And they're like, Mom's crazy. And then everyone's like, why don't you have a lot of furniture? And I'm like, because if a deal comes my
Need to
way,
move.
right. And my husband and I, we are both entitled to a VA backed loan
Yeah.
separately. And
Yeah.
so we've been able to kind of tag team stuff along the way. And like I
That's
told him,
awesome.
we've got about 48 months until we've got things paid off. And I'm like, we're able to, save and pretty much pay cash moving forward for
So
more.
I just want to make sure I understood that. So I think what you're saying is in the next 4 years, all of your homes will be owned free and clear. Is that what you're
Yes.
saying?
Yep, absolutely.
And so what is it? So what does that mean your husband doesn't have to work? Like he doesn't have to work
No,
now,
no,
probably.
no, we don't, because I receive a retirement. That's another benefit of joining the service. Well, they fully have a fully funded retirement. Not to mention, you can also dump money into what the civilian equivalent of a 401k is. It's called the thrift savings plan.
Hmm.
So same thing. And you've got to think when you join the service at 17, 18, 19 years old, I have 3 degrees, no student loans. My husband has 2 degrees, working on a third, no student
Wow.
loans at all because the military pays for all of that. And so yeah, and then our retirement is funded and you can also add to the TSP. And so for me, we get that retirement until the day that we die, right? We can draw on our TSP, when we're older if we want, as well, start taking from that also. But yeah, so it's amazing. So for now, I mean, he could retire now if he wanted to.
Right.
He's like, well, let me wait until you get the houses because I'm like I said, I'm kind of a cheapskate. So I'm like, I want to make sure everything's in a row, and
Yeah.
then
Dialed
even
in.
still in retirement, we can still keep buying
Yeah.
more as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, say I'm thankful. Matter of fact, I'll say not too many people can say they're going to make the same money, if not more, in retirement, and we're slated to be able to do that because we decided to buy houses along the road. So
I mean, again, I hope folks that are in the military, especially if you're young and heading in after high school, play Monopoly with somebody else's money. Just
right,
do what Sarah and her husband did. And when you're done with your 20, if you serve the full 20, you not only have the pension, but then you've got, in this case, 4 houses that are free and clear. I mean, like
yep,
life is good.
yes,
And
yes.
you're not even 40 yet. You
Yep,
know?
I just turned 41. My husband's only 39. Yeah, my husband's 39. And
Yeah.
it's funny, Mr. Zuber, it's hard, it's been hard to like not want to get on the train with everybody else selling for a capital gain through this process, definitely during COVID. That's how I actually found you. So I read all found you in like 2020 and began reading and researching and looking at your site. And you actually kept me from getting on board with everyone else's mess of, oh, let me sell for 250, again, and go buy a car. And it was like, nope, just keep them. Like you helped to
Keep them.
reinforce that from me when I read Mr. Kiyosaki. So thank you.
No, I'm so happy to hear that. When my mom watches this, she'll be happy as well. So, that again, I think the path to getting wealthy is the same for everyone. Live below your means,
Yep.
check. Buy assets that cash flow, check. Hold for 10 years, check. And oh,
Yep.
by the way, VA, no insurance, get, 3 degree. I'm just curious. What are your 3 degrees in? I'm just curious.
So I had gotten an associate's degree just in general studies. I got a
Sure.
bachelor's of science in history, and then I got a master's degree in education.
There you
Yep.
go.
So so and that's
Again,
another benefit of the service.
yep,
Yep.
no
Yep.
debt. That's awesome. And
Yep.
again, oh, by the way,
Yep.
you could use all of that and go get a job after you've done your 20. I mean, it's
That's where my husband's at now. Should I get out? I'm like, What's we love the army. We love meeting new people. We get to travel the world. So I'm like, we can keep rolling for a little bit longer. So
4 more years, honey, 4 more years.
yeah.
So I'm curious, what cities are your homes in? So not Tacoma. We sold that one.
Yep, yep. So we've got some up in South Carolina, and then we've
Okay.
got in Georgia, and then we've got homes in Missouri as well.
Gotcha. And then
Yep, yep.
where are you today?
So I'm actually in Georgia here now. So that matter of fact, this is my first time of ever having been near the rentals.
Mm,
So we've
that's
had to
funny.
use managers the whole time. So that's kind of been cool for me. Like, oh, this is kind of neat. So I'm able to make better relationships with the managers and whatnot, being close to some of our rentals. So
There you go. I like that. Yeah. Again, I think if you're in the military, there's just this mental block that you're telling yourself, I don't want to own because I'm going to move soon. You've
yep,
got to flush that block. This is how you get wealthy. No down
absolutely.
payment, below market interest rates, cash flow day one when you leave. Just follow Sarah's path. She's showing you how to become a millionaire on the military, probably a multi-millionaire because of the military. This is genius what you and your husband have done, Sarah.
Yeah, absolutely. It will. That's why I tell my husband, I'm like, we have this amount of time until we will be multimillionaires. And I actually had two kids before I ever graduated high school as a teenager, and they're here with me too. They're in property management themselves, actually,
Nice.
and so they love it because they've seen mom and dad do it all their lives. But it's like if I was able to overcome, two kids before I graduated high school, still get 3 degrees, still serve, and still acquire all that my husband and I have together, it can be done. It really can be
No,
done.
I mean, just think about what you just said. You were set up to be a negative statistic,
There you go.
right?
Yep,
Two,
I was.
two kids as a teenager. That was not supposed to end well.
Nope.
Can be done. It can be done.
Yep.
And the
Yep.
military was, I would say joining the military was a key piece to that. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So I'm very thankful for the service that we've.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a privilege that we were able to serve and
Yeah.
get all the benefits that we have. So
So let's play with this last thing out. So when was the last time you moved? When was the last time you moved?
so we left Tacoma in 2020, and then we
Okay.
actually came to Georgia in
Okay.
2020. But then we
Okay.
moved twice while we were here in Georgia.
Got it. Okay. So all right. So you're in the military. You get this notice or tapped on the shoulder that your duty station is changing.
Yep.
How much time do you usually get, like from the notice to when you're
Um,
moved?
Usually, well, when you're enlisted and officer, it's a little bit different. The career paths
Okay.
are a little different. Enlisted people actually usually get a notice sooner. So my husband and I both met. We were enlisted. I retired enlisted. My husband's an officer now in the Army,
Okay.
and so officers usually only have maybe like a 9 to 12 month notice when they have to.
All right. But so let's even say 6 months notice. But
Yep.
it's not like what I'm trying to make the block go away, right? It's not like you're at your home Friday and you're leaving Monday. That's not
Right.
how it
Right.
works,
No.
right? You
No.
get
We
plenty of
have a
notice.
window.
Yeah,
Yep.
you get plenty of notice. So, okay, folks, you're doing this. Um, you're going to pack up your stuff. You're going to find a property manager. You're going to lease the property, and then you're going to go. It's 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 not hard. People have been doing this for years
Right.
or decades. So again, I think a lot of folks in the military just need to remove that mental block. You're going to get plenty of notice. If you buy it right, you make sure it cash flows. When you buy it, whenever you have to leave, it's not a hard process, right?
Right. Right. Yep, absolutely. I mean, for us, when we get stationed at a place, well, I'm looking at obviously at homes even before I ever arrive, but I
Right.
immediately start looking for adequate management as soon as we arrive because it's been the same thing over and over again. we're going to buy a house where it's going to be well below our means, and
Hmm.
we're going to, make sure that the numbers run right. I'll run comps to see what like that size house rents for in the
Yeah.
area. I'll even go talk to several managers. I interviewed them and say, hey,
Love
what
that.
have you got on your plate? How many houses do you have under management? I've gotten good. In the beginning, I was a little rusty. I went through a few bad managers.
Oh yeah. I've been there.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had
Been
to
there.
fire a few. But yeah, I've gotten pretty good at it now. The only thing sometimes I wish I had known what I know now 15 years ago. I'm like, I would have had 30 houses. I'd have
Mhm.
made my kids move every 6 months, and we would have never had a bed. We'd had a blow up mattress. But
There you
yeah,
go.
and so that's what I do. That's what I do, boots on ground, and I really kind of buy for that purpose. Like I have the
Right.
end result in mind every time we
Yeah,
buy,
it's
and
intentional. It's
yep,
intentional.
absolutely. Yep,
No,
it has
you're
been.
yeah, yeah. It's
Yep,
so awesome.
definitely. That's why. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say you don't leave it up to chance. You
No,
plan
I don't.
ahead.
Yep. Yep. And that's something I'll say too that sometimes people don't understand because they're like, well, how you and your husband can't live below your mean? I'm like, yeah, yeah, we do. I promise you that we do. And so but that's something for me, it has it's been very strategic. And sometimes, things might not cash flow. Even like for me now, I plan for maybe if rents go down because maybe the economy will fix itself. Like I plan for all that, and that's required my husband and I to live below our means. He's been in the Army 21 years and still chooses today to drive a 21-year-old vehicle to and from work every day. Every day. But we can go to Disney World several times a year, so yeah.
There's so much wisdom in all this. Again, using the military to get in, like, again, think about being a 19-year-old going, by the time I'm 40, I'm going to have, I'll call it a pension. I'm not sure what it's called. I think a pension. I'm
Yep.
going to own 5 to 7 houses, all cash flow, all below market rates when I buy. I can always lower the rates with a streamline.
Yep. Yep.
And that's, you're done at 40, people. I mean, what? That's not
Yeah,
bad.
yeah, yeah, you are for sure, for sure. You know something else too, Mr. Zuber, you were also very helpful to me because we had been thinking about scaling up to actually getting a small apartment building. And you had done a video several months ago. I'm like waking, 'cause I get up every day at 3, drink coffee. I'm like, come on, babe. I watched this video at 3:15 of Mr. Zuber. It's almost 4. You need to be up. And I was like, it was like his video of if he could do it all over again, is what you said. And you were like, if I could do it all over again, I'd have 20 single family homes. And I'm like, I've been on track because I'd even reached out to Kenny McElroy. My husband paid for me to be an inside member maybe like 2 years ago. And I asked him, I said, when I run the numbers, and then of course your video posts, yeah, I don't know, a few weeks later. And I said, when I run the numbers, it doesn't make sense to me to try to scale up to an apartment building just for, kind of sound cool, whatever.
Mm.
And he said, Sarah, you're absolutely right. The only thing that equals out the same is if you had a paid for apartment building. So absolutely keep your paid for single family homes. Don't bother with scaling up. And then of course you confirm that for me next. I'm like, well, I need to hear from someone else too. And then you came on and said I would just stick to 20 single family homes
Oh
and
yeah, all day.
not have the headache. So yeah, so thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. And you could just call me Zuber. You could drop the Mister. I can totally give you
Oh, I'm
permission
sorry,
to.
sir. It's just we're brainwashed from the
No,
time that we joined.
I hear it. I got you. But so what would be advice you would give? What advice would you give your younger self? Like, let's pretend Sarah's, in the Back to the Future. You're talking to Sarah at 18, 19. What would you want to tell her?
I would actually have told myself to educate myself sooner, just even on money. I come from a poverty-stricken background. My parents had 6 of us, and so I didn't have a lot of financial knowledge growing up. So if I had understood, which the Army does teach you a little bit of that when you first join, but I would tell my younger self to educate a lot more, a lot sooner. And then I would also say I would have bought as soon as I left basic training, I would have bought bought at 19. I would have walked out the front gate and purchased the first thing
The
available.
first thing that I saw. Let's
Yep.
go.
Yeah. Yep. I would have, again, bought sooner. I'm not sitting around and waiting, because it's the time in the market that you need,
Yes. Time in the
the time in
market.
the
Yeah.
market. And if you're privileged to stay at one duty station for a period of time, you can just kind of, and you're living below your means, that's what we did, double down on mortgage payments.
Yeah.
And then you've built equity kind of on your own. Then now you're letting your tenant do the rest. And we
Yeah.
just partner, attendance payment, our payment, attendant payment, our payment, and we're getting them there. And so yeah, that's what I would have bought sooner.
There you go. Well, so we've asked about going backwards. Now let's fast forward a little bit. Let's go forward a decade. So your husband's probably retired. The teenagers are out of the house probably.
Yep.
What's the dream life for Sarah and her husband? Just curious.
Actually, all we want to do is just be with our kids and our grandkids. That's all we want to do. Like to be able to afford, if my grandkids call me and need something, or we're very big on family time. Everywhere
Mhm.
we go, everyone says, "Man, how do you guys have a family like that close?" But that's just what we value.
Yep.
I think some of it's too, so we've never lived by family to have like babysitters for our kids. So we had to figure out how to make the family go, right? We're over here
Right.
in Germany and we know no one. So let's figure out where can we go
Got to
together
figure
as
it
a
out.
family.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my husband and I, we've never done much of anything alone together, but we've been married almost 20 years. And
Wow.
so yeah, and so I think we're at 17 or 18 this year, I think we've been married. But
Nice.
yeah, so we just want to relax, no stress, and then just
Yeah.
continue to travel the world. We've been able to see a lot of the world in
Sure.
my little 41 years of life. I've seen some things that are just so beautiful that I wish every
Mhm.
American could see, even in a combat zone, beautiful things. And so yeah, so that's what we want to do is just continue to travel, but we want to be able to have the money, if our kids are younger or just starting a family or whatever, we can afford to have everyone come along with us. And that's been my why.
There you go.
So,
I'm curious. Do you think any of the kids might serve as well?
oh yeah, absolutely. Matter of fact, we've got a daughter right now, actually. God bless Nadia's soul. She actually just signed up. So she's actually an ROTC. So she'll commission
Nice.
as a lieutenant in about 24 months. And she understands the houses and everything as well. So she's like, hey, I'm ready.
Yeah.
And then our
She's
other
gonna put you
daughter,
to
she,
she's gonna put you to shame. She's gonna
yep, hey,
obviously.
I do. I want you to be better than me. Like, come on. Like, I need you guys to just. And then our son, our 13-year-old, actually, he's contemplating actually going to the Naval Academy, and then commissioning that way. Because I tell him it's like it's extra money. Our school's paid for. Even if you just do ROTC, at your local college or whatever it might be, you don't have to go to a service academy, or you just enlist to be a reservist. You get the same benefits as a reservist or a guardsman. It's like, and
Mhm.
they give them even insurance and stuff now. You can pay a little small fee, like $100 a month for full coverage health insurance for you and your family with like barely zero, out of pocket cost pretty much, even
Nice.
for reserve and guardsmen. And so, yes, so my husband and I truly do try to convey to our children the blessings and the benefits that serving our country has given us. And I think our kids do know. They know that the Army is what's paid for them for tuition, for little things. For we've got some of our kids in private school and different things, and so they know that it's mom and dad's service that has covered that. It's not been anything else but Uncle Sam, and raising your right hand. So they see the benefit of it. I think our 22-year-old that just she actually is on scholarship for ROTC. I think she tried to kind of bang out here in the civilian world for a little bit of time, and she's like, man, like all my friends have student loans. They have to
Mhm.
live with their parents. They have like they don't have insurance. Like it's just crazy. So she's got one degree actually already paid for because she was on a full ride track and field scholarship at Alabama. And she's like, I'm going to serve and I'm going to get grad school paid for. So
There you
that's
go.
what she's doing. And I'm like, you can get a PhD paid for also by Uncle
Yeah, go
Sam.
for
And
it. Yeah.
yeah, so I do think, and then our 9-year-old, she said she'd like to be an Army helicopter pilot, so she may serve. And then I might come from a military home. My father was a reservist, and then my husband is a legacy family as well. His dad served, his grandparents served,
Wow.
but none of them bought houses though
Come
along the way.
on, guys. Hey.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, this has been
Yeah,
much
so
of this has been such a fun conversation. Thank you for reaching out. Thank you for sharing.
yeah,
Joining the
absolutely.
military is a great way to get wealthy. Just have a plan, do it on purpose, get rid of that internal roadblock.
Yep.
Sarah, if somebody wanted to follow you or reach out, do you have a social media or how can people
No,
reach out to
no,
you?
I've got like a Facebook. I'm Sarah Garrett on Facebook. I got somehow an Instagram, but I just like to spend time with my kids. So
There you
I'm
go.
not active on any of that stuff. So I'm just always with my kids here in Georgia.
There you go. Nothing wrong with that, Sarah. You are living the dream life. Thank you for your service. Thank your
Yeah,
husband for his
thank you.
service.
Your family as well.
Awesome. I appreciate that. Well, there you go, folks. You can get wealthy in the military. It's just a plan. It's simple. Live below your means, buy stuff that cash flows, keep it. By the time you're 40, I think you'll be in a good spot. Sarah, you're amazing. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Zuber. Take care.